Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I'm kind of eager to get into the Q&A this week because it has been an absolutely exhausting week for me. Just trying out a new gym schedule. I got raids 3 nights a week doing Criterion as of late, so it's just an adjustment to schedule, not anything like you sometimes hear me say here. But there's another thought that's been kind of pervading my mind a little bit in the last week, and it's because there's some content I want to make, but I don't feel like I should put it on this channel. Now, obviously, many of you heard me say I wanted to make a Souls-like. I actually have everything kind of set to release that if I want to, but I haven't really found a time because nothing Souls-like is really happening right now, and I feel like it should kind of ride a timing with like things I'm excited for, like maybe the Elden Ring DLC coming out or Lies of P. Like, I feel like it should coincide with something if I am going to do a standalone Souls-like channel. But just a standard anything I want channel is kind of seeming more like a... I don't know, kind of an idea. It's weird because there are times where this channel can fly not just doing Final Fantasy. Like if I were to upload something about another particular game a lot, like it would usually do okay. And I'm thinking about uploading stuff for Grand Blue Relink because I played the demo and the demo was dope. I also played Dragon's Dogma as of late and I want to release a video on that. But I see all the numbers behind the scenes, and I see when I take long stints from uploading Final Fantasy content on the channel, or if I do like a drastic shift, I do see the back end like changes to that. I see subscriber numbers fluctuating a lot more because there are some people coming in from the new stuff, some people going out, usually a net loss because, you know, the algorithm doesn't take to that super well. And so like a part of me would rather build something from scratch, a separate channel, and kind of migrate stuff over there with the occasional off upload here to kind of remind you that that channel even exists, as opposed to being like, okay, on my channel, I'm going to dive deep into it. I think Grand Blue could maybe fly on this channel. I don't think Dragon's Dogma could, even though, you know, RPG, hi Aloha, he has been whining nonstop the past few days. He's fine. He just wants nonstop attention. I've never seen him so greedy for attention in all of the time that I've owned him. Hey, buddy, take a nap. You're probably going to hear him meowing a lot because as soon as I start talking to the camera, he thinks I'm talking to him. So he comes over and starts to try to continue the conversation. He doesn't understand I'm not directing any of what I'm saying in his direction whatsoever. But that's on my mind, and I've already done some work for it. But what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to release a couple more experimental videos on this channel. One on my thoughts on Grand Blue, one on my thoughts on Dragon's Dogma, now having played it. And then I'm going to look at those and then probably pull the trigger because I suspect I know what will happen when I upload those videos. So I kind of want to start mentally preparing for having the other channel just so I can finally say, you know, hey, let me separate Final Fantasy and the other things that I like, because there's always been like a divide. And I already said this with the Souls-like channel, but it's like it's so much harder nowadays to make a channel and just kind of do whatever you want. Unless what you're doing is kind of like the general fad at the time, you know, like what's already popular on the channel, even if it's like varied across a bunch of different things. If it follows a very specific format, you can usually make that work. And I'm someone who just very much likes to do my own format for things. So that's a bit rough for me, but I'm going to be doing a handful of new things over the next couple of months just to, you know, get a feel for any other ideas I might have, which is I want to spend the creativity, and I'm gonna run out of 14 videos sometime before Tantra. Like, obviously, we're not going to have something to talk about every day for a few months. So that's what I'm looking to do. And I figured I'd let you know that here because you guys who watch this every week are, I'd say, probably among the most dedicated watchers because you come in every single week, ask questions, watch me answer questions, stuff like that. But I'll make a formal video about that if and when I do it. Same with the Souls-like, because I might still make, you know, maybe I'll make 2 separate channels. I very much in the consideration. I've made like trailer videos for both of them already. It's just, you know, got to pull the trigger. Can't be a bit of a coward on that one. But I'm excited for 2024. Like I said, I'm going to make this my year. And these are, I guess, the thoughts that are resulting as of that. So with that, now let's get into the Q&A. And then I can maybe get back to work. Oh, there's some other stuff I'm doing, but I'm not going to tell you. Trust me, you'll notice certain things changing over the next couple of weeks and months in regards to uploads to the channel. Trust me, you'll notice pretty quick. But anyway, let's get into the Q&A. Thank you to the sponsors over on Patreon for supporting, the members on the channel as well. Nobody has to support. All my content's available for free, but stuff like that is always appreciated. So appreciate all of you who go out of your way to support the channel in any extra manner that you choose. With that, now for the third time, Q&A. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays, lolly ho, lolly ho. With the announcement of the new 8-man raid with the Arcadian, we now have the first instance of 2 normal raids starting with the same letter. Everyone's been asking about this. What abbreviation for those raids might differentiate? They just call it Arc 1. Arc 1 through Arc 12, or like maybe people start finally naming it by tier. But yeah, I like Arc. It's still just one syllable. It's a couple of extra letters to type out, but it's like super, recognizable. So yeah, that's what I've landed on, Arc 1 through 12. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. Hope you and your cats are doing well today. Aloha's just been such a pain. If I don't pay attention to him nonstop, he just whines and whines. Take a nap, cat. I have 2 questions for you, if that's okay. Sure. First question, when did you realize content creating was something you would do for the foreseeable future? I'll answer that first. I didn't, but I didn't have a job at the time anyway because my company had just been bought by Vodafone and they got rid of 2/3 of the company. So I didn't have a job at that point, so I wasn't even thinking about it. But, it worked out. Funny story. On my last day at the office, one of my coworkers who was a programmer, I told him, like, I guess I'll put a little bit of energy into my YouTube channel. It's got like 1,000 subscribers, and you never know, maybe I'll do okay with that. And he said, don't waste your time on that. It's not going to go anywhere. I mean, look where I am now. I'm not like huge or anything, but I've been able to do it for the last decade comfortably. So I ain't listening to that guy. I'm glad I didn't listen to that guy. And the second question, what advice would you give someone who wants to make videos on 14 or just games in general? The advice is, so it really depends, because if you're just making videos because you want to make videos, that's how I started. There was no plan when I started making videos. Now, obviously, I have a plan. I like to keep uploads regular. Obviously, from the intro of the video, you can tell I consider algorithm and whatnot, like when I'm uploading my stuff, even if I still want to make it largely mine, But, I mean, you just got to do it. You can't think that, someone's already done that, so I won't do it. If that was the case, we would have the same 2 or 3 guide makers for the past decade, and nobody else would have ever done it again. And that's insane to me to think that anyone would have done that. But half of my videos are what I think about things, what the impact of something could be, news and my perspective on some news. It's all customized to my experience and my feeling and anecdotally the things that I've dealt with when playing the game and the things I've experienced with other people in the game. And that's where a lot of the perspective value comes in when people do enjoy watching it. And there's been a lot of that, and there will be a lot of that leading up to Dawn Trail because we've got a ton of content to dissect and criticize and wonder about and hope for better and whatnot. So there's all sorts of room. But regardless, you could, whether you're doing funny videos, informative videos, guys, like it doesn't matter. You just have to do it, because if you don't start doing it, you'll never figure out what works and what doesn't. You'll only be doing what somebody else has told you worked for them, which may not work for you. And then if that doesn't work, you wonder why and where it went so horribly wrong, and that can be discouraging. You just got to do it because you want to do it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Well met, Mr. Happy. Hello. What is one thing you're looking forward to the most when Dawn Trail releases? Dawn Trail releasing. With me, it's always just new Final Fantasy 14 stuff is fun. Because, like, it's been so systematic and similar pretty much the entire release schedule for, years and years now that I don't have to really consider a specific thing to be excited for, because I'm likely going to do everything except dive deep into crafting and gathering. And so for me, it's too many things that I don't even want to bother picking out one, because I'll spend time doing so many of them. So the expansion releasing is the thing I'm most excited for. And realistically, it's not even the expansion releasing. It's early access, which is 4 days before. So that. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Greetings from someone asking a question here for the first time. I like how concise you made that. Got all the information out there, and welcome. I think a lot of people were surprised that Shinryu was passed over as the next Ultimate. You're only surprised if you don't really think about the logistics of how an Ultimate works. Do you think Shinryu could have been a second Ultimate in Endwalker if DSR had not been delayed? No, I think it was going to get skipped no matter what. Because Stormblood's MSQ, I don't mind it. I'm not as critical of it as other people are. But in terms of how you structure an Ultimate, it's terrible. Like, You can kind of get from Susanoo to Shinryu because of the sword, and you could stick like a Xenophase in there, but Lakshmi is just kind of there, and it's just like you need to do that in order to, continue on to the next step. There's so few strung together story beats or ones that are strung together cleanly that make for a cohesive and coherent story that you kind of have to do it like you did DSR, but like even more bullshit, if that makes sense. And it just doesn't flow. Like, you're better off throwing Shinryu into like Endwalker's MSQ, because at the very least that ending with Shinryu almost makes sense. Like, does it make sense to end with Endsinger? Yeah. It also makes sense to end with Xenos, and thus consequentially Shinryu. So I don't think it's off the table forever, but Stormblood MSQ is just not made. It's too divided to really have a cohesive ultimate story and events being told. And the question of whether or not they'll do something other than MSQ player raids is they could, but there's no reason to believe they will or believe they will at any given time, because they've never done it. So until they've done it, we can't make any prediction because they've never broken pattern. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Howdy, Haps. Howdy. Hope your week is a good one. Yeah, despite the tiredness thing at the beginning, no, it's been a great week. It's just I'm doing 5 days a week, and I'm in a caloric deficit right now because I'm trying to just finish up the last bits of how I want myself to be shaped out, and then I won't mind going back and forth between maintenance, bulk cut, maintenance, bulk cut. I'm in that phase, so my energy levels are a little bit lower, and my workout is way harder now, and not just because of caloric deficit. It's harder because I also completely changed the way I did my workouts, and it's not a way I'm used to training. So that way there's a lot more volume. There's still fairly close to what I was lifting before, and a lot more slow and controlled, less strength building and more just muscle and lean muscle building. So that's been that's been a journey. Which Souls boss weapons are your favorites? I almost never use Souls boss weapons ever. What ends up happening to me in 90% of my playthroughs of Souls games is I pick a weapon up, and I'm talking about going through them the first time, picking up a soul, a boss weapon, and then kind of switching to it mid playthrough. That almost never happens to me. Number one, a lot of them are two-handed, large, slow two-handed weapons. I don't use them. It's never really been my interest. Elden Ring, I kind of like it because jump attacks make it feel a little better. Plus some of the weapon arts also really improve that. But a lot of the times, the only real boss weapons I've used, I've used the what's it called? The Moonlight Butterfly Greatsword. I've used that before. Which I honestly only used because it looked really shiny and didn't use it because I really wanted to. It was just it already made sense with what I was using in that playthrough, and I didn't even use it for the rest of the game. I very rarely use boss weapons because I become so committed to the weapon that I've gotten comfortable wielding up to that point that I've already put upgrade stones into in order to raise its power. And then I don't want to do that reinvestment because I just want to fight all the bosses in the way that I'm most comfortable. So yeah, I don't really have a great answer. Elden Ring has a ton of boss weapons that I like. Crap. I can't even think about it. And Elden Ring came out in 2022. I don't know why I said 2023. Last year, my brain was all over the place. I can't even get there. No, it's in Elden Ring, and there's so many. I've done so many playthroughs of Elden Ring with so many different boss weapons. I mean, Hand of Millennia, when I got that, it instantly became my go-to because I was already using a katana in the first place. And then in subsequent playthroughs, I did a shield run, and I didn't use any boss shields for anything like that. I did a bow run in Radon's I said Gradon's. I had to put swapped where the G was. Radon's great bow was, a super, super big thing for that. And then I've tried runs with almost every other boss weapon in Elden Ring at some point. Even the crappy fist that you get. It's not even a crappy fist, but I did my very first playthrough. I think it was a fist play. No. I went back and forth between fist and katana because they were both dex weapons in my first playthrough. And you get this one from, God, what's his name? I can't remember any of most of the Elden Ring boss names. The guy up in the Snowy Fortress, he gives you his foot is becomes a fist weapon, and it does a lightning pulse. I did a run where that was my primary weapon, so I got that as quickly as possible and just used that. I just messed around with so many. I'd say, I don't know, I guess I'll go hand with Millennia because I don't know, your anime while you use it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello there, General Happy. Hello. Hope the first 2 weeks of 2024 have already been good to you. Some ups and downs, but I'm handling it. I got this. My question, I remember right before Endwalker, Yoshida was talking about their decision of not removing Resurrection from Summoner for Endwalker, even though the design team was very close to it. I think that Dawn Trail might be the point where they finally decide to remove it and Physic from Summoner, leaving Red Mage as the only Raise Mage from now on. Honestly, I just hope they kind of just... here's the thing. I think we need some ability to produce volume, a high volume of raises for casual content. I think exploration content and 24-mans in particular benefit from this a lot. But raises have become kind of bad in general in like recent raid releases, both Savage and Ultimate, and then Criterion, you can't even use the traditional one. So much so to the point where I don't really care. I'm not thinking about it. It won't surprise me, but like it's kind of irrelevant at this point anyway, because summoners barely ever try to raise any. Like red mages and summoners have gotten so used to not contributing to raises this expansion. It's insane. Red mages will be like, oh, I'm in melee combo. Summoners will be like, I used it for slipstream or whatever they use it for. I think it's slipstream during twos or something like that, or during pot. One of those. Or like, oh, I used it on Ifrit for movement. And then they never have it. And they're like, I'm not slow casting that shit. And then the healers go, well, I don't have swift cast either. I used it on glare. And you're like, ah, one of you, please. All of you. It's like they're already trying to get out of it anyway. That I wouldn't even notice it. But I wouldn't be surprised. But no, I don't think they're going to get rid of it on Summoner. I don't think they will. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello there. Hi. I hope your day and new year is going well. Like I said, ups and downs, but overall good so far. I think of myself as being cautiously optimistic about the upcoming Dragoon rework. Cautious was where you stopped being, you could have stopped there at cautious pretty much. Optimistic is like, well, if I think about it, no, just stop. You're cautious. That's where you are. Mentally preparing for the possibility won't be my thing anymore. Viper has definitely piqued my interest and is a strong contender for being my new main if I decide to put Dragoon aside. But I would like to experience the MSQ for the first time with whatever my main ends up being. So I was wondering if you have any tips for speed leveling 80 to 90 in the event that I decide to want to change. Dungeons and your rested XP will be key. There'll also be the pre-order earring, which will boost your EXP. And on top of that, I will make a video on, speed leveling right at the start of the expansion. I do on every expansion. 80 to 90 is actually technically a Bozia play as well. Bozia, I know it's supposed to be 70 to 80, but it was also really fast from 80 to 90 as well. And even if not really fast, going into Zadnor and just sitting at the third zone at least becomes super easy, if not much slower. I think it's like 10 to 12 hours if you want to do Zadnor just in the third part. Whereas I did 80 to 90 in 6 hours with going to the Southern Front and just sweaty try-hard gamering it. That being said, another big thing to remember is that the armory bonus will go up to 100% for those levels also. So Zadnor tier 3 starts to sound a little bit like not a great option, but a feasible one. Realistically, though, getting a dungeon spam going, finding a few friends beforehand, preparing stuff like depending on if you play a job that's not new, you could prepare tribal quests to turn in as well. That only works if it's not Viper or Pictomancer, because they wouldn't be available to prep those before the expansion actually drops. But any of the other jobs that would work. Prepare a Wondrous Tales to turn in. That's half a level, so you might as well. And because we'll have early access on a Friday, what you could do is prepare the Wondrous Tales from the previous week, then do Wondrous Tales that day, and that's a full level. At any point that you want, because it's half a level scaled. So you could do the first one at the one point, and then, if you're just kind of winding down, maybe getting a bit tired, just wrap up with it at the end of the day, and that'll give you another half a level. Then you could do it again on Tuesday, technically, and get another half of a level. So in those 3 or 4 days, that's a free level and a half for, just wrecking through some old content pretty much. But those are just a few things. I'll definitely have a detailed video after I weigh all the options and check their speeds and everything again. But those are just a few things that should help. And if you are going to do Viper, yeah, ignore the tribal quests, but otherwise the Wondrous Tales and Dungeon Spam probably be the way to go. You could also do EO. I don't know what the queues are going to look like, but EO should be pretty quick also. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Happy. Hi. 2 questions. Very short because they're both on the screen here. Excited to see Eden Ultimate and all the suffering of the race when it comes out. Do you got any beginning thoughts on possible boss order? Made a video about that, but real quick. I can't really tell who the first boss will be, but I fully expect Shiva, Oracle of Darkness, and Eden's Promise. I'm not convinced about any other boss. I think you can make an argument for Fatebreaker. I think it's reasonable to expect Fatebreaker will be there, and Eden Prime. But honestly, I don't think Titan, any of the other primals will be there. I don't think you'll see Voidwalker, and I don't think you'll see Idol of Darkness. I don't think you'll see any of those. I think they're really going to do what they did with Omega and focus on the ending and like changing the ending of that. And I said it in my other video, at the end of Savage, specifically Savage, which is not a canon story, it's a retelling. In Eden's case, I think it's specifically, what's his name's, Mitron's memories. Like it's like a memory crystal he made of how he envisioned it all ending, like in his head. And Gaia dies at the end of that. So I'd imagine we're trying to change that particular memory in Mitron's little crystal thing. At least the minstrel's version of the story, you know. For Cosmic Exploration, was it stated it in maybe other fanfests it would be more Ishgard Restoration or Island Sanctuary-esque. All they said was that they basically listed those both as lifestyle content. That's all they did. They didn't draw a direct comparison to one or the other, but Cosmic Exploration sounds a lot closer to Ishgard to me than Island Sanctuary. Sorry, I skipped the question before this. It asked me about speed leveling Picto and Viper, and I kind of went into that already. And the answer to the yes, I'll be making. Basically, I answered that entire question. So sorry if I skipped reading yours, if you just only asked that. But I mean, I just answered it like 5 minutes ago. So just saying. Hashtag one days with Mrhappy. Wow, that really confused me. Ola Haps, hi. Over the last year, I've caught myself talking to myself when playing a game as a result of making videos where I narrate what I'm doing or I'm going to do. Sometimes I pause and start to think to myself that I am going crazy, but I figured it's one of those things you pick up when you do something a lot. My question is, have you picked up any mannerisms as a result of making videos and or streaming for such a long time? No. What you see is pretty much me. I mean, obviously, I give you what I feel is the best forward representation of me. You know, I'm not sitting here like, I don't know, I'm not doing anything different than I would normally do as a person, but like, you know, obviously I'm keeping the energy up. I'm not just like the occasional shallow and depressed version of me that you don't see on camera most of the time. It's there sometimes, trust me. But no, that's really it. And that's not even the answer to your question. No, because it's just these have always been my mannerisms, and I'm just projecting them to you, the viewer, and that's it. I've always talked to myself because I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I laugh. It's funny because it's true, and it's also sad. I had friends, but a lot of the times I still felt kind of loner-ish, and I still do from time to time. Not to mention, for me, it's always helped. I guess sometimes when I'm thinking and I don't say things, they slip out of my mind too easily. When I say something like over and over again, it becomes much easier. I'll give you a prime example. When it came to doing, not DSR, when it came to doing T, Epic of Alexander, when I got to Wormhole for the first time on Prog Week, to make sure I almost never messed it up, I literally laid in bed and said all 8 assignments over and over again. I didn't just review them and look at a picture. I didn't just run them through my head. I said them out loud. While it drove my girlfriend crazy, I've also almost never messed up Wormhole since getting there for the first time. I think I've messed it up once or twice, but that's about it. And I literally can say that helps me learn a lot. So no, I don't really have any specific mannerisms I picked up like this. Hashtag Monday with Mrhappy. Hello. Hi. Do you think it would be a good idea or not to have a fight where you resolve mechanics while keeping an ally NPC alive to the time limit? Basically, Hush Font and DSR stretch an entire fight. I mean, it doesn't really. It's just another target to heal. The thing is, all you've done is give yourself a target to protect. So that means that you would be blocking AoEs for it or healing the target or shielding the target. I mean, it's not that unreasonable. The NPC just becomes the centerpiece for a lot of the mechanics. And that's what they would do. They would basically target that NPC with absolutely everything or target the player with things that are aimed at that. Now, a great example of something similar to what you're suggesting here, and I just hit my funny bone on my desk like an idiot. I'm sure you heard that. Is actually the last phase of Cruise Chaser on Savage, going all the way back to Alexander, where there are 3 different devices that if at least one of them is not destroyed, then the arena will stay up. But if all three are destroyed, the arena instantly drops you. So the mechanic becomes a lot about that. These things become things the players need to avoid when aiming their mechanics, and the boss will automatically target them with some things unavoidable, so they're always chipping away, so there's always some pressure on them. There's also a lot of other really interesting interactions with those, but I mean, it's kind of the same idea. It's just you're giving the character, it's a character instead of an inanimate object. So, I mean, yeah, they could do that. It's not even if it's a good or a bad idea. It would just become that fight's theme, and yeah, there's no reason they couldn't do it. Hashtag magical, magnificent, marvelous Mondays with Mr. Happy. I'm shocked I didn't slip up on that. Hey, Habs, hi, and a handful for any missed above or below. Nothing yet, but we're getting there. We'll see. More of a hypothetical question this time around. How much money would I need to throw at Yoshi P and crew to make the creation of a playable race worth their dev time or resources? Tens of millions of dollars. I'm not kidding. I'm not being satirical. I'm not being funny. Tens of millions of dollars. Because they're going to take years to develop that. So you got to pay everyone, and they got to make a profit. So get going. Pull out the credit card. Hashtag Mondays with El Señor Feliz. Hello there, Mr. Feliz. I like how we abandoned the Señor 2 seconds later. I just got a simple question. Back when you did Top, you mentioned you made some Prague stew from the 14 cookbook. Is that the actual name? No, it's the exquisite beef stew. Almost all the recipes I've cooked from that have been fantastic. I highly, highly recommend the 14 cookbook. I mean, the author for that, Victoria, I think her last name is Victoria Rosenthal, I think is the last name. She has cookbooks for a ton of different games, and I've looked through them, and they're all fantastic. I've cooked a bunch from the 14 cookbook. They're all really good. I've done some of the other soups and stews in there as well. It's a good time. So highly recommend it. And the beef stew in particular, I fucking love. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hi. Hope you're doing all right. You too. I had a question about Island Sanctuary. There's a signal they're not making new content for it, but do you think they'll continue updating the rewards against spend calories on? No. I don't. The value in the items that are from there will be the fact that many people will abandon it, and thus they'll maintain value. Materia, at the very least with crafting and gathering, usually holds some value even after a new tier comes out. But I sincerely doubt they upgrade the rewards from it at all. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hi. This question may be a bit of a downer, but I'm asking it anyway. Is this sort of reaction to a new job normal? I'll be the first to admit that Pictomancer isn't the job for me, and I'm a little disappointed, but it's still a job which deserves to exist in the game and has the potential to be fun. So even I'm getting sick of all the negativity online, meaningless though it may be within the echo chambers of the internet. You nailed it right at the end there. The echo chambers of the internet. What happened, definitely the biggest thing that happened with this was a classic case of too much time to simmer on it and to predict on it. 99% of predictions, 99, and I wish I was kidding, were bullshit. There were only ever two options that once we had Viper, because like people thought the turtles were going to be some sort of pirate thing. Pirates versus ninjas is a pirate. Like there were a ton of reasons how people got to some like Corsair or pirate-y job, like Buccaneer or whatever. We got Viper. It's still kind of, it's more like Wild New World and less open seas like it seems initially. Like, you know, when you actually watch the trailer for it, nothing if you saw that, you wouldn't immediately think, oh, that's a pirate, you know? But then when they said, oh, it's a hint for the other job as well, then everyone should have tuned in and been like, okay, there's two options. I know I said at that point there were only two options. It's literally Green Mage or Pictomancer, because it's either stupid. It's stupid either way. It's either because they're all green or because they're the artist names. And the artist names was the obvious one because we have a Final Fantasy job based on that already. Same as the reason why Corsair was kind of like an obvious guess because we had it already. People also don't have simple comprehension of words. Yoshida said ages ago, and people have held on to this statement, that there are a lot of jobs in Final Fantasy and only so many jobs to pull from in all the Final Fantasy universe. Thus, they'll have to start making original jobs, and they are, at that point, they already had been. People took that as they will never make a Final Fantasy inspired job again. It's like it's like that thing with people say on the internet. It's like somebody says, "Oh, I like apples." What? So you hate oranges? You know, it's kind of like that, where it's just like completely derivative and like no context. So most of the people who are upset are people who just completely wrote off the two most obvious options. And technically, Pictomancer should have been the only obvious one, because the Green Mage one would have been extra stupid until they gave us the earring, in which case I bit into it and became a stupid. And I wouldn't even say that, because they literally gave us the Green Mage job symbol as a teaser in a patch, and then it had nothing to do with it, and she's swearing it in the trailer like, ha, idiots. So, yeah, no, like you said, it's an echo chamber on the internet, and I just don't know how it even remotely shocked anybody. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hi. Haven't looked at 14 since my P8 static exploded. Many people were there. Did they ever announce anything about new starting experiences? Lots of WoW friends want to get into the game, but nobody wants to commit 200 plus hours to the story. They don't feel like matters with how much they talk about how Dawn Trail is the beginning of a new journey. There was a brief translation of a mention where there was consideration of doing it, but I think other translations showed that there was no commitment to a new starting point anytime soon. It was more like, we have the tools so that if somebody was to like start paying attention in 6.1, like the story would still make sense. It wasn't like, we're going to start from 6.1. So no, I don't think there's been any hard commitment. And the old story is always going to be relevant because it literally puts in motion all of the events. Like the world and how it is all going to always be relevant to how we get to the current point, because it is one linear story, even if there is a contextual new starting point in that of Dawn Trail. So, I mean, my advice is always, if you really don't want to play the story, get the skips. If you're honestly a semi-competent MMO player, the skips will not make or break you. If you're not a competent MMO player, I would advise against the skips, because it's going to show very quickly, unless you only play with trusts, in which case, as soon as you start playing with players, it's probably really going to show. So, but to answer the question, no, there's no solid commitment on anything like that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday, or Mr. Monday Happy. Wow, I just read it as if it said the thing I wanted it to say. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, what jobs would you want to see added? This question is like, you can't, like, I do have an answer, but it's like, it's one of those things that when you start setting expectations, everything that isn't what you wanted becomes a worse option. So I tend to never want specific jobs. I go off what the hints they give us are, and I try to predict it based on that. And even then, you have a 50-50 chance now, because one of the two jobs is likely to be at least somewhat close to a completely original job. At least somewhat close. Necromancer, I can promise you'll almost never see. I am willing to say you'll never see a Necromancer job. It's only ever been in one Final Fantasy before, which isn't actually a reason against it. But more so, it is constantly set up as like this absolutely you cannot, will not, taboo, raise the dead, no. A Voidmancer that like uses Void Beasts, but we have Reaper, so that's kind of redundant. You could see something that commands like energies that are, I don't know, it's something residual. But a straight up raises the dead and fights with skeletons, I will say 100% you'll never see it. One day, if I'm wrong, play the clip back, but I will 100% tell you'll never see it. And Puppet Master isn't out of the question as another limited job. Yeah. Curious over what are your thoughts? Yeah, I don't even think about it, because I just want to see what they do be cool. I say this about everything with Final Fantasy 14. I like the references. As long as they're done well, they're written into 14's world, they're not tacky. I like the references to other Final Fantasy games. But the thing is, all of those Final Fantasy games needed to do something original at some point. And that became something that could become recurring in future Final Fantasy games. That's what I like to see. I like to see the references, but I always want to find that one thing that stands out in a game, that thing everyone remembers, everyone loves, that somehow makes a return later. Whether that's Diablos in Final Fantasy VIII, whether that's suplexing a train back in Final Fantasy VI. It's like it's just moments and situations like that. The job system, Espers, different story. It's like so many have defined themselves in specific ways to affect the rest of the franchise. I want 14 to always strive to do that while pulling on some references on occasion. So that's my overall thoughts on just like bringing things in from other Final Fantasy games, or like predicting new jobs or predicting new anything. It's like, I almost don't ever want to be right, because I feel like they could do some amazing things when they come up with their own ideas. There was yet another question asking about leveling from 80 to 90. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just sorry. But now if you're any of the other 2 people who asked about it, then you know why I didn't, read your question out loud. Sorry. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Mr. Happy. Hi. Did Square Enix ever say how they'll roll? Somebody told me, they asked me this. They came to my Twitch stream and said, hey, I asked you this on your YouTube video. I think it was this one. I've not, maybe I've just read this question so much, because somebody did come to my Twitch stream and say, hey, I asked a question on the weekly Q&A, but also let me ask you it here. That's like, but I'm going to answer it anyway. Why? Now I'm going to have to answer it twice. Maybe this was it, but I've also answered this question a lot. Yeah, they said that assets that are constantly reused will basically be updated first, as well as, major, I guess, like set pieces and stuff like that. So like any NPC that uses the same assets as the character. Characters that have unique assets will likely look out of place for a while, or may not all be updated at once. Areas will generally be upgraded, and we've seen most of that, but they are going to have to go back to certain old areas and old NPCs and old stuff to fix those. So like, don't be surprised if a Realm Reborn doesn't look all graphically updated, or Heaven's Ward doesn't at all points, but they will get to those later. But you can be sure that more of the recent stuff and the environments and the job armors and the characters, as long as they're not completely unique models, will probably look improved. But there's going to be a few that stand out. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hi. Been listening to your videos forever without interacting. Well, welcome to interacting. I think I found your channel trying to learn Summoner and Heaven's Ward. Oh, I'm so sorry. I break my silence to ask, do you think Pictomancers will get a raid movement buff called Van Gogh? No, it's also not how you spell Van Gogh. But anyway, moving on to the next question. I get the joke, but still. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, hi. Quick 14 question. So what's the state? So with the state that PF is in, my group and I. Sorry, the commas. I read them ahead of time. My brain broke. We are thinking of leaving Primal to go to Ether server to have no PF issues. So my question is, do you think this will be fixed when Dawn Trail comes out? Do you think it's best to switch servers before Dawn Trail? I mean, you don't even have to switch servers. You just need to go visit it. Like, yeah, I guess if you want FC buffs, you could do that. But honestly, the fix will eventually be a region-wide party finder, or a region-wide duty finder, and or both. So when that happens, you'll be good. But until then, who knows when that'll be. So if you really want the raid buffs or houses or whatever it is on Ether, hey, if you want houses, good luck. But if you want your FC buffs and stuff to be active while you raid, then I mean, yeah, that's probably the best play. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. Happy. I like your content and dedication to the Final Fantasy series from 1 to infinite. Keep it up. Thanks. With 14 Dawn Trail, we are going to hit level 100. Now, I've been playing Final Fantasy Online games for not 1 but 2 decades. Don't tell me I don't have a life. I have a passion. I've got more of a passion than that. So I'm not going to say anything. Question. Will Yoshi P stop asking us to level up to do content after Dawn Trail? Like, level numbers just right, just unlock. No. So let me be very clear about something. You will gain power every single expansion forever. Now, I say gain power because how they go about doing that is never going to be set in stone. There's no harm in just making it 10 more levels every time. Go to 110, 120, 130. They could rename it to some other type of level if they really wanted to, but you'll still probably gain 10 of them. No matter what, there will always be a power growth between your character at the start of an expansion as you progress through the MSQ to the end of the expansion. For your first job, that will always be MSQ and the EXP you get from that, plus dungeons and maybe some side quests you do along the way. On the other jobs, it will be doing dungeons again. It'll be doing fates. It'll be doing tribal quests. It'll be doing deep dungeons and bows. They will always have some form of power gain through experience points every single expansion. So that's it. That's the answer. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hola, Mr. Happy. Hi, long-time watcher, first-time asker. Welcome. Has there ever been a reason given as to why 14 did not continue introducing new jobs? This is the question that I got asked over on Twitch. This is the one. The other one I just recognized because I've answered it a billion times this week. Yeah. why they didn't continue introducing new jobs the same way they did with Ninja. Example, Picto and Viper being in 6.58 instead of 7.0. That way they allow the players to level them currently. So first of all, I'm glad you've asked this question a bit more in detail here, only a bit more, but I can see what you mean. First of all, Ninja wasn't released as a precursor to Heavensward. Ninja was supposed to be released in 2.0 and got delayed till 2.4. So they could focus on the content and all the stuff they had to fix post the game's release with all the bugs and all the issues they had. It was not meant to be like, here's a Heavensward job we're releasing early. What you've asked is Picto and Viper being in 6.58 instead of 7.0, essentially releasing these jobs early, ahead of the actual expansion release. So the answer I gave you on stream and the answer I'll give to everyone else here is that there's very little reason in releasing an incomplete job for people to play ahead of its full release. It's not made for the content that is released at that level. Its kit is made to be fully complete, 10 levels higher than it is, and thus it's going to feel like it's incomplete and missing something, most likely. Now, obviously, jobs need to be functional at all levels, but anyone who's done old level cap content knows that's not always true in effect. And so they're not going to deliberately opt into that situation. Not to mention, why release it early when they could take several more months to do job changes, which they do. They do job changes all the way up to the release of the expansion. A lot of the times, the stuff we've gotten in Media Tour, which is 6 weeks before the expansion release, is actually stuff that's about a month and a half to 2 months even older than that from a build prior. So changes have already even happened by the time we play Media Tour that aren't even reflected in it. Great example was Monk still had 4 positionals in Media Tour for Endwalker and only had 2 by the time it released 6 weeks later. So 7 because they delayed it. But that's kind of the point, is that they're always going to be fine-tuning things right until they come out. They're not going to release them in an incomplete state, have everyone providing feedback on something that doesn't reflect the job and how it performs in the soon-to-be most relevant content, and then have to have like knee-jerk reactions. There's so many issues that come in with it. So that's a more elaborate version of the answer. Okay, there's actually still like quite a few questions left that's after skipping. The next person was a longtime watcher, first time asker. Yoshi P mean when he says they'll be releasing 14 time, not Square Enix time. So 14 time is just whenever they decide it's going to release. Like summer is summer. Everyone believes summer is at a certain time, but Square Enix has fiscal quarters and fiscal years. And so the way that Square Enix determines what a fiscal quarter is determines how they actually determine their releases. So like the first 3 months of the year, I think February, March, and January, February, March is like one quarter for them. And then April, May, and June is the next quarter. Then their summer quarter is July, August, September, but that can go all the way into October. Like Square will stretch the term summer and the term winter and all those. They will stretch them as far as possible. 14 is going to exist in what humanity believes is summer, which is, June through August, maybe September at the latest. Like that's how most people determine summer. That's what they mean by that. Let's see. Do you think that somebody's asking me about speculation for the story? We have no context. We haven't even met Wuklamot yet, so I'm not even going to get into that. Then we had another one here, longtime watcher. Quick 11 question. What server in LS for people helping out? It is on Bahamut, and it is the XIV Refugee Link Shell, or XIV Refugee 2. We do have Link Pearl, people who can give out Link Pearls, who can put Link Pearls on the, on the concierge, and we do have an entire Discord section of people looking to participate in the Final Fantasy XI stuff. Then we had one that says they like Pictomancer, still need to complete Pandemonium. Did you notice if there are any initial speculated 2 connections? No, basically no connections with Final Fantasy 2 other than the very specific thing that La Habrea's real name is, or his scion of light is Mateus, and Mateus is the emperor of Final Fantasy 2, and Pandemonium is the last one. Like that random connection is it. It completely ends there. There's no real Final Fantasy 2 connection at all. Then we had here, what's a favorite game series of yours that you love to hate on? That I love to hate on? But I like it? It's probably Kingdom Hearts. You even said Kingdom Hearts 2. Yeah, I love Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, Birth by Sleep. I loved that game for many years, and 3 missed hard. I was so disappointed. Then we had, What's another one? Less plugged into the community. Curious what the community's impression of Pictomancer's animations are. I think I've already answered this in great detail. There's a pretty clear split between people who don't understand why it looks artsy. And I don't get why that's confusing. It should look artsy. It's an artist. It's a Pictomancer. They draw things. And they're not going to redo animations. They just know that the crybabies are going to be crybabies. And I'm not saying you're a crybaby, but there's people who are like going fucking ballistic over this shit. I'll call them crybabies. You have a reasonable distaste for it, which is perfectly reasonable. And it does mess with the game because it needs to stand out. Because if they were drawing spell effects that looked like every other spell, that would be even weirder, in my opinion. But it's pretty split, opinion-wise. So, you know, people who like art seem to like it, but people who don't like art are split. So, I don't know, just a little strange. Let's see. There's a keynote. I kind of realized the problem with 14 expansions. Don't really get any of the new content till like a year out. Oh yeah, I'm making a video about that. Don't you worry. Do you think devs should prioritize getting some new types of content out earlier? Yes. Relic weapons should be out much earlier. And they shouldn't be handing 1,500 fucking tomestones so I have a reason to log into the goddamn game. Anyway, we're not going to get into that discussion too much right here. Anyway, oh my God, somebody wrote like a novel on the Pictomancer, and it's about the visuals being a little jarring. I just covered that. That's fine. I like how it's like did people downvote the Elden Ring as 2022? Why are these all at the bottom? Maybe YouTube just saw it as like a spam thing. But yeah, no, they're all down here. Let's see. Let's see. And then, yeah, okay, wow, there's just so many comments. Yeah, Elden Ring. I knew it was February. I got that right at the very least. And then there's, okay, so this is another weird one. Someone says, Mrhappy looks so weird now. What happened? You never sleep? I don't look weird at all. That's the weird. I just went back and looked. Is this another person who doesn't know what weight loss? Because is this the same person? I kind of want to check. Because we had a comment like like a month ago or so, where somebody was like, are you okay? Are you sick? And it's like, you look pale and like a skeleton. And I was just like, well, pale I kind of get. I sit in front of the monitor and I got a light in my face right there pretty much all the time, and one over there. But like, I don't get it. I don't know. I look at me last week. I look fine. I look normal. I look like a person. That's it. I got nothing. I can't figure it out. People are weird. I wonder if it's the same person who said that. They're just going to say it every week. I have no idea. It's just, it's weird. It goes right to the bottom of the comments. So clearly YouTube is just like, what is this guy talking about? Throw this down at the bottom right here. Also, a funny one here. Some people seem to forget that the game is Final Fantasy. I like that comment. That comment gets a thumbs up for me. That was at the bottom too, but it's got 3 thumbs up. I like that one. There were a few other comments that I went through that were like using the hashtag, but just stating things. There was like 3 or 4 of those. So I just kind of went past those because I already see the video is going to be kind of long. But that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mrhappy. A long one, but you know, that's what we're here for. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Ask your questions in the comment section below with the hashtag, and I'll get to them next week. So appreciate everyone for watching. I will see all of you I'm going to be posting a bunch of 6.55 reactions this week, so keep an eye out for all those. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.